Leah's role in deceiving Jacob in Genesis 29 is a complex issue. While some argue that she willingly agreed with Laban's deception, others suggest she may have been a victim of circumstances. The truth may lie in between. By delving deeper into the historical context, we can uncover hidden truths that challenge our understanding of this biblical narrative. Stay tuned as we unravel the mysteries of this intriguing story.
Did Leah agree with Laban to deceive Jacob in Genesis 29? What you don't know. Welcome to the Way of the Cross channel. In this channel, we deal with biblical issues which are least expounded, and also with history on those issues which would help anyone join the dots while reading the scriptures. Welcome and join us. We will be very grateful. Take whatever we say with a pinch of salt. But please go and do your own research to see if it's true or not. Take your time to write your comments below. We will appreciate it. But before we proceed, a quick request. Over 90% of our viewers are not subscribed. We conduct thorough research and condense it into a story format for you. Your support would greatly help others discover our work. Please take a moment to hit like and subscribe. Now, let's get back to the case. After Laban had deceived Jacob in the issue of Rachel, not much is said about Leah's position in the whole saga. Was Leah complicit in the whole deceit? Or because of the strong patriarchal system that was in place at that particular time, she didn't have any choice? Jacob is speaking to his wives, Leah and Rachel, reminding them of how their father, Laban, had deceived him and changed his wages 10 times. Yet, God had been with him, and whenever Laban had changed his wages, God had ensured that Jacob had been blessed in spite of his father-in-law's underhanded schemes. So when Laban had tried to undercut Jacob's wealth by assigning to him the sheep or goats with recessive coat patterns, speckled or streaked rather than the dominant solid colors, God blessed the production of the sheep that Jacob needed to prosper. What is clear is that Genesis 30 and 31 are describing divine intervention, a miracle, an event that would not occur naturally apart from God's involvement. Many commentators have tried to explain how Jacob used rods of green poplar and of the almond and chestnut trees, peeled white strips in them, and exposed the white which was in the rods, Genesis 30 verse 37, to entice the flocks to conceive and produce streaked, speckled, and spotted offspring, Genesis 30 verse 39. But when all the evidence is presented, every theory of how this could be possible fails the test of known science. External objects like branches of trees with white strips in them cannot influence the markings of the next generation of sheep and goats. Even if Jacob was trying only to entice his flocks to mate, the use of these rods makes no scientific sense. So what was the purpose of the rods? No one really knows. Some have suggested that Jacob's use of the rods was a superstitious practice he learned from other shepherds, something akin to Leah and Rachel's beliefs about the use of mandrakes. Certainly, there is no biblical evidence that God instructed Jacob to do this. Maybe the best supposition on the matter is that Jacob used this method to help God bring his promise to pass. There is no doubt, however, that the credit for Jacob's breeding success story belongs to God. Jacob says this himself in Genesis 31 verse 9. So God has taken away the livestock of your father and given them to me, emphasis mine. He goes on to relate a dream he had had in which God had assured him that the rams that impregnated his ewes are streaked, speckled, and gray-spotted. For I have seen all that Laban is doing to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed the pillar, and where you made a vow to me, Genesis 31 verses 12 to 13. This is the Bible's 2nd millennium BC way of saying that God himself was manipulating the gene pool of Jacob's flocks, causing the recessive coloring genes to dominate for Jacob's sake. God's mention to Jacob of his vow at Bethel, Genesis 28 verses 10 to 22, and of the fact that he is the God with whom he made that promise, is a reminder that God was still with him and continuing to uphold his side of the agreement. In fact, he is essentially saying that he was willing to bend the laws of nature to ensure that Jacob prospered. God was building the man's faith toward his real conversion moment, wrestling with the man at Peniel, Genesis 32, verses 22 to 30. Anyway, for the purpose of this video, we will use the Book of Jasher, also known as the Book of the Upright One in the Greek Septuagint and the Book of the Just Ones in the Latin Vulgate. The Book of Jasher was probably a collection or compilation of ancient Hebrew songs and poems praising the heroes of Israel and their exploits in battle. The book of Jasher is mentioned in Joshua 10 verses 12 to 13 when the Lord stopped the sun in the middle of the day during the battle of Beth Horon. It is also mentioned in 2 Samuel 1 verses 18 to 27 as containing the song or lament of the bow, that mournful funeral song which David composed at the time of the death of Saul and Jonathan. Okay, let's dive in right away. We will address Jasher chapter 31 in this video. And in the 7th year, Jacob's service which he served Laban was completed, and Jacob said unto Laban, Give me my wife, for the days of my service are fulfilled. And Laban did so, and Laban and Jacob assembled all the people of that place, and they made a feast. And in the evening Laban came to the house, and afterward Jacob came there with the people of the feast, and Laban extinguished all the lights that were there in the house. And Jacob said unto Laban, Wherefore dost thou do this thing unto us? And Laban answered, Such is our custom to act in this land. And afterward Laban took his daughter Leah, and he brought her to Jacob, and he came to her, and Jacob did not know that she was Leah. And Laban gave his daughter Leah his maid Zilpah for a handmaid. And all the people at the feast knew what Laban had done to Jacob, but they did not tell the thing to Jacob. And all the neighbors came that night to Jacob's house, and they ate and drank and rejoiced, and played before Leah upon timbrels, and with dances, and they responded before Jacob, Heliah, Heliah. And Jacob heard their words, but did not understand their meaning. But he thought such might be their custom in this land. And the neighbors spoke these words before Jacob during the night, and all the lights that were in the house Laban had that night extinguished. And in the morning, when daylight appeared, Jacob turned to his wife, and he saw, and behold, it was Leah that had been lying in his bosom. And Jacob said, Behold, now I know what the neighbors said last night. Heliah, they said, and I knew it not. And Jacob called unto Laban, and said unto him, What is this that thou didst unto me? Surely I served thee for Rachel, and why didst thou deceive me, and didst give me Leah? And Laban answered Jacob, saying, Not so is it done in our place to give the younger before the elder. Now therefore, if thou desirest to take her sister likewise, take her unto thee for the service which thou wilt serve me for another 7 years. And Jacob did so, and he also took Rachel for a wife, and he served Laban 7 years more. And Jacob also came to Rachel, and he loved Rachel more than Leah, and Laban gave her his maid Bilhah for a handmaid. And when the Lord saw that Leah was hated, the Lord opened her womb, and she conceived and bare Jacob 4 sons in those days. And these are their names, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, and she afterward left bearing. And at that time Rachel was barren, and she had no offspring, and Rachel envied her sister Leah. And when Rachel saw that she bare no children to Jacob, she took her handmaid Bilhah, and she bare Jacob 2 sons, Dan and Naphtali. And when Leah saw that she had left bearing, she also took her handmaid Zilpah, and she gave her to Jacob for a wife. And Jacob also came to Zilpah, and she also bare Jacob 2 sons, Gad and Asher. And Leah again conceived and bare Jacob in those days 2 sons and 1 daughter. And these are their names, Issachar, Zebulun, and their sister Dinah. And Rachel was still barren in those days, and Rachel prayed unto the Lord at that time. And she said, O Lord God, remember me and visit me, I beseech thee, for now my husband will cast me off, for I have borne him no children. Now, O Lord God, hear my supplication before thee, and see my affliction, and give me children like one of the handmaids, that I may no more bear my reproach. And God heard her and opened her womb, and Rachel conceived and bare a son. And she said, The Lord has taken away my reproach, and she called his name Joseph, saying, May the Lord add to me another son. And Jacob was 91 years old when she bare him. At that time Jacob's mother, Rebekah, sent her nurse Deborah the daughter of Uzzi, and 2 of Isaac's servants unto Jacob. And they came to Jacob to Haran, and they said unto him, Rebekah has sent us to thee that thou shalt return to thy father's house to the land of Canaan. And Jacob hearkened unto them in this which his mother had spoken.
At that time, the other 7 years which Jacob served Laban for Rachel were completed, and it was at the end of 14 years that he had dwelt in Haran that Jacob said unto Laban, Give me my wives, and send me away, that I may go to my land. For behold, my mother did send unto me from the land at Canaan, that I should return to my father's house. And Laban said unto him, Not so, I pray thee. If I have found favor in thy sight, do not leave me. Appoint me thy wages, and I will give them, and remain with me. And Jacob said unto him, This is what thou shalt give me for wages, that I shall this day pass through all thy flock, and take away from them every lamb that is speckled and spotted, and such as are brown amongst the sheep, and amongst the goats. And if thou wilt do this thing for me, I will return, and feed thy flock, and keep them as at first. And Laban did so, and Laban removed from his flock all that Jacob had said, and gave them to him. And Jacob placed all that he had removed from Laban's flock in the hands of his sons, and Jacob was feeding the remainder of Laban's flock. And when the servants of Isaac which he had sent unto Jacob saw that Jacob would not then return with them to the land of Canaan to his father, they then went away from him, and they returned home to the land of Canaan. And Deborah remained with Jacob in Haran, and she did not return with the servants of Isaac to the land of Canaan, and Deborah resided with Jacob's wives and children in Haran. And Jacob served Laban 6 years longer, and when the sheep brought forth, Jacob removed from them such as were speckled and spotted, as he had determined with Laban, and Jacob did so at Laban's for 6 years. And the man increased abundantly, and he had cattle and maidservants and menservants, camels and asses. And Jacob had 200 drove of cattle, and his cattle were of large size and of beautiful appearance, and were very productive. And all the families of the sons of men desired to get some of the cattle of Jacob, for they were exceedingly prosperous. And many of the sons of men came to procure some of Jacob's flock, and Jacob gave them a sheep for a manservant or a maidservant, or for an ass or a camel, or whatever Jacob desired from them they gave him. And Jacob obtained riches and honor and possessions by means of these transactions with the sons of men, and the children of Laban envied him of this honor. And in the course of time he heard the words of Laban's sons, saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and of that which was our father's has he acquired all this glory. And Jacob beheld the countenance of Laban and of his children, and behold, it was not toward him in those days as it had been before. And the Lord appeared to Jacob at the expiration of the 6 years, and said unto him, Arise, go forth out of this land, and return to the land of thy birthplace, and I will be with thee. And Jacob rose up at that time, and he mounted his children and wives and all belonging to him upon camels, and he went forth to go to the land of Canaan to his father Isaac. And Laban did not know that Jacob had gone from him, for Laban had been that day sheep shearing. And Rachel stole her father's images, and she took them, and she concealed them upon the camel upon which she sat, and she went on. And this is the manner of the images. In taking a man who is the firstborn, and slaying him, and taking the hair off his head, and taking salt, and salting the head, and anointing it in oil, then taking a small tablet of copper or a tablet of gold, and writing the name upon it, and placing the tablet under his tongue, and taking the head with the tablet under the tongue, and putting it in the house, and lighting up lights before it, and bowing down to it. And at the time when they bow down to it, it speaketh to them in all matters that they ask of it, through the power of the name which is written in it. And some make them in the figures of men, of gold and silver, and go to them in times known to them, and the figures receive the influence of the stars, and tell them future things. And in this manner were the images which Rachel stole from her father. And Rachel stole these images which were her father's, in order that Laban might not know through them where Jacob had gone. And Laban came home, and he asked concerning Jacob and his household, and he was not to be found. And Laban sought his images to know where Jacob had gone, and could not find them. And he went to some other images, and he inquired of them, and they told him that Jacob had fled from him to his fathers, to the land of Canaan. And Laban then rose up, and he took his brothers and all his servants, and he went forth and pursued Jacob, and he overtook him in Mount Gilead. And Laban said unto Jacob, What is this thou hast done to me to flee and deceive me, and lead my daughters and their children as captives taken by the sword? And thou didst not suffer me to kiss them and send them away with joy, and thou didst steal my gods and didst go away. And Jacob answered Laban, saying, Because I was afraid lest thou wouldst take thy daughters by force from me, and now with whomsoever thou findest thy gods he shall die. And Laban searched for the images, and he examined in all Jacob's tents and furniture, but could not find them. And Laban said unto Jacob, We will make a covenant together, and it shall be a testimony between me and thee. If thou shalt afflict my daughters, or shalt take other wives besides my daughters, even God shall be a witness between me and thee in this matter. And they took stones and made a heap, and Laban said, This heap is a witness between me and thee. Therefore he called the name thereof Gilead. And Jacob and Laban offered sacrifice upon the mount, and they ate there by the heap, and they tarried in the mount all night. And Laban rose up early in the morning, and he wept with his daughters, and he kissed them, and he returned unto his place. And he hastened and sent off his son Beer, who was 17 years old, with Abichor of the son of Uzi, the son of Nahor, and with them were 10 men. And they hastened and went and passed on the road before Jacob, and they came by another road to the land of Seir. And they came unto Esau and said unto him, Thus saith thy brother and relative, thy mother's brother Laban, the son of Bethuel, saying, Hast thou heard what Jacob thy brother has done unto me, who first came to me naked and bare, and I went to meet him, and brought him to my house with honor, and I made him great, and I gave him my 2 daughters for wives, and also 2 of my maids. And God blessed him on my account, and he increased abundantly, and had sons, daughters, and maid servants. He has also an immense stock of flocks and herds, camels and asses, also silver and gold in abundance. And when he saw that his wealth increased, he left me whilst I went to shear my sheep, and he rose up and fled in secrecy. And he lifted his wives and children upon camels, and he led away all his cattle and property which he acquired in my land, and he lifted up his countenance to go to his father Isaac, to the land of Canaan. And he did not suffer me to kiss my daughters and their children, and he led my daughters as captives taken by the sword, and he also stole my gods, and he fled. And now I have left him in the mountain of the brook of Jabbok, him and all belonging to him. He lacketh nothing. If it be thy wish to go to him, go then, and there wilt thou find him, and thou canst do unto him as thy soul desireth. And Laban's messenger